Well, I want to welcome you to week number 5 of a series that we are in here at the Bridge called Defining Definitive Definitions. We are intentionally looking at the words and the terms and the phrases of Christianity that often get people tripped up. You see, it's very easy to go into conversations and say the same things, use the same words, and mean totally different things. And what's absolutely critical is that when we speak, we use the definitions that God has given us, biblical definitions. And so in week number 1 of this series, we looked at what is the gospel, not a gospel, but the gospel. We looked at the blueprint of divine truth and love, that which will separate eternities for those who accept all 100% of the gospel and those who don't. The second week, we looked at what is biblical belief. We acknowledged that biblical belief, what we called saving faith, is different than easy believism. It's not what you hold in your head. In short, what we saw, it's not if you believe, it's what and how you believe. A lot of folks are holding to a belief system that is not biblical. And regardless of how sincere or how hopeful they may be, if we're not believing in the gospel with all of our personhood, our mind, our heart, and our actions, we saw that we could not possibly be a true Christian, which is what was the essence of week number 3 when we said, what is Christianity? And we said, in short, Christianity is the church. Not a church, not a structure, but it is the called out people of God in collective form. And we looked at over 60 verses that gave us an understanding and a perspective on what it is to be the church. Last week in week number 4, we said to understand what it is to be the church is to understand what it is to be born again. And we noted that that's a phrase that back in the 70s really started to get some negative stigma. And really even today in general population, when you say somebody is born again, at least half the people are going to immediately go to a negative connotation. They're immediately going to go to, Christian wacko, or one of those Jesus freaks. And I want to show you a graphic that I put up last week that we created that was designed to really bring clarity to what it is to be born again. And we noted that if you're going to use this term with integrity, that to be born again, there must first be a death. In reality, there must be 2 deaths. There must be 2 funerals represented by the 2 crosses. First, the big cross, the cross of Christ. That without Jesus having gone to the cross, the door to eternal life could never have been opened. But as we saw, looking at Galatians 2:20 at the end of our time last week, that Jesus has created a door, but in order for us to walk through it, we must accept the gift of grace by faith, which is representative of our death to self. Well, I want to pick up this week, continuing on so that there is absolute clarity of understanding, and say, what is these 2 crosses? What do these 2 crosses really look like? What is to be crucified? What is the cross? I want you to look at this very, very carefully. Because if you don't understand the cross, you do not understand Christianity. If you do not understand the essence of what it is to see and to acknowledge Christ crucified, you will not and cannot understand what it is to have your call to be crucified with him.